guys, welcome to the quick guide for bass fishing on Lake Travis. This is a video where I discuss all of the basic stuff that anybody would want to know when you're getting started bass fishing on Lake Travis. Whether you are new to the lake or new to the area and trying to figure out how to catch bass on Travis, just trying to get a feel for the lake, or whether you're preparing for a tournament on Lake Travis. This video is going to be very helpful to you. This is provide some basic information, stuff that I would want to know. If I were fishing Lake Travis for the first time or new to the lake or whatever. So y'all just saw a quick run through of some of the lake. I started off at Mansfield Dam and drove up to the Bee Creek area of the lake. Y'all can check on a map where Bee Creek is at. But it's a really long lake. I just ran a short section of it, relatively short section of it anyway, so that y'all could get kind of a general feel for what the lake looks like. It is mostly just steep, rocky terrain. There's a few flat areas, but mostly steep, rocky terrain. Lots and lots and lots of rocks. As you saw running up the lake there, you also see several docks, some marinas. There's lots and lots of docks, lots and lots of marinas on the lake. There's also a lot of flooded brush on the lake. When I first moved here about 13 something years ago, the lake had very little brush in it actually. It was mostly all rock. If you go way out deep, you'll find some timber out there in really deep water, like over 40 feet of water. Few big trees out there, not many, but it used to be mostly rock. Well, several years ago, we had a drought, and the lake level came down 50, 60 feet, and it remained low for at least a few years. I want to say like 4 or 5 years. It remained real low, and in that period of time, we had lots of brush grow up in that 0 to 60 feet low range. And lots and lots of brush grew up, and there were even trees, like 40-foot tall trees that grew up in that period of time. And so now the lake, has since filled up, and now we've got brush from like 0 down to practically 60 feet deep, just depending on the current water level. But lots and lots of brush in the lake. Not so many like real big trees, mostly just brush. Some brush and small trees, maybe 10-foot tall, something like that. So lots of brush in the lake now. A few flat areas that have some stumps and smaller rocks and stuff. There's also no vegetation in the lake. You're not going to see reeds, submerged vegetation, anything like that. Every once in a while we get a year where we start getting some hydrilla that starts to grow in there. If the lake has remained at a constant level for about 3-4 years or so, then we'll start seeing some hydrilla starting to grow. But for the most part, the lake level fluctuates so much that it doesn't really ever give the vegetation a chance to really take hold. So every once in a while we start to see some hydrilla grow in areas, but don't go out there and waste your time scanning around trying to find vegetation, because it's largely going to be a waste of time. It's very normal for this lake to fluctuate quite a bit. I'd say within about a 20-foot zone. I really don't even personally consider the lake low until it's at least 20 foot low, just because that 20-foot range, it fluctuates a lot. And we see lots periods of times where it's even lower than that 20-foot zone. So being a steep, rocky lake, generally the lake is very clear through most of the lake. At times I've seen down on the lower end of the lake, I've seen it get 15-foot visibility, maybe even 20-foot visibility. I've seen it get really, really clear down on that lower end. Usually you're talking somewhere around 6 to 10-foot visibility, around that lower end. Sometimes way clearer than that. And of course, it's such a long lake, and it's got both the Colorado and Pedernales rivers that flow into it up past Pace Bend. Once you start running up the lake, you get up there to that river split, the Colorado Pedernales split. Most of the time you're going to start seeing the water get more stained. Sometimes it gets really muddy, if we've had a lot of rain. Even times, though, when we've had the lake come up like 40 feet in a short period of time, The lake is so long that most of the time that lower end of the lake usually stays pretty clear. It's usually only, you know, the mid to upper sections of the lake that get really, really muddy. As for the general fishing on Lake Travis has largemouth bass in it primarily as the predominant black bass species. It also has Guadalupe bass in it, a very abundant population of Guadalupe bass. That is the state fish of Texas. The Guadalupes don't get very big. The world record is only like 4 pounds. And until recently, Lake Travis, you know, had that world record for a long time. But what the Guadalupes lack in size, they certainly make up for in rambunctiousness. They're aggressive little fish, a lot like smallmouth, and they behave a lot like smallmouth or spotted bass especially. But those are the two species of black bass that we have in Lake Travis. The overall bass population in Lake Travis as well is just tremendous. It has an enormous population of bass. And this is the biggest thing that I tell people about fishing on Lake Travis is do not get overwhelmed by the size of Lake Travis, because the bass live everywhere in this lake. They live from one end to the other, every creek arm. They are everywhere. There's nowhere on this lake that you can't go on this lake and not be around bass. Okay? Certain lakes, bass really only seem to live in certain areas of the lake, like all year long. This is not one of those lakes. It has such a tremendous population of bass that they just live everywhere. Now, Lake Travis also has a reputation for being much more of a numbers lake than a size lake per se. You catch a lot of fish in that small, you know, 1 pound range. You know, a lot of 10 to 12 inchers, sometimes, you know, those small 14-inch keepers and stuff. But I have felt like I've seen a trend over the last couple of years of seeing the average size of fish just a little bit bigger on Lake Travis. So it's definitely known as more of a numbers lake than a size lake. But having said that, it's got big bass in it. It's got 10-pounders. This is Texas, so we've got big bass in all of our lakes around here. It's very, very difficult to be consistent on the big bass in Lake Travis. You look at tournament results, you know, for multi-day tournaments on Lake Travis, and that becomes very, very evident if you look at those in detail and see the results from day to day. So it's got big ones in it, and so you can find them and you can catch them. Now, because Lake Travis tends to be very clear through most of the lake, it's, like I said, a deep, clear lake. Obviously, your finesse tactics come into play a lot. Things like the drop shot rig, a shaky head, a Ned rig, your light line, finesse, spinning rod tactics really come into play a lot. That doesn't mean that you can't pull out the big heavy bait casters and heavy line and throw the bigger baits, because you certainly can, but because of that deep clear water, finesse tactics are a huge deal on Lake Travis all year long. Generally speaking, you know, it's like anywhere else where in the spring you're going to see fish up shallow towards the backs of pockets and creek arms and whatnot, wanting to spawn. Then in the summertime you see those fish migrate out deeper, and then in the fall again they push shallow, and in the winter they tend to go deeper again. Now our summertime tends to be way more extreme here in Texas than our winter time. So I will say that I feel like the bass tend to go, there are more bass that go deep in the summer than there are in the winter. I feel like in the winter time you can still catch quite a few bass up shallow because our winters are relatively mild here. And not only that, but Lake Travis, I've noticed over the last several years, the water temperature on Lake Travis, I think because it's such a big lake and it's got such a tremendous amount of water, that the water temperatures do not change very rapidly. And so Lake Travis tends to stay a little warmer, a few degrees warmer than a lot of the other area lakes around here. So because of that, I feel like you tend to be able to still catch fish shallow on Lake Travis even throughout the winter time. Yeah, you know, if we have a real hard winter where that water temperature gets down, you know, below 55 or even the upper 40s, you're going to see a lot more fish out deep, but you can catch them up shallow, guys, still in the winter time. All right, now I'm going to give you all my top 3 choices of baits or techniques to use on Lake Travis. These are probably the top 3 baits that I have between me and my clients during guided trips. These are the 3 baits that have probably put more fish in the boat on Lake Travis than anything else. Maybe not necessarily big ones. I mean, although these have caught big ones and will catch big fish, but these are the top 3 producers for just catching bass. Number 1 is going to be the drop shot rig. Okay, I prefer, my personal favorite is the good old robo worm. There's a lot of other good finesse worms out there, but the drop shot rig with the robo worm by far would be number 1. That has produced the most fish on Lake Travis than anything else, and it's caught a lot of big ones too. Number 2 would be the Ned rig. Okay, this is just a little Bass Pro Shops mushroom. It's a weedless mushroom jig head. I like to use the one with the little wire weed guard on it with all the brush that's in Lake Travis now. And I put I use a half of a Power Team Lures 6-stick on here. Works great. You know, I use 6 sticks all the time on Texas rigs and stuff, so I save the ones that get torn up, and then I cut them in half and just save to use with my Ned rigs. So Ned rig is number 2. So number 3, believe it or not, is going to be a medium diving crankbait. I've caught a ton of fish on Lake Travis on medium diving crankbaits. My 2 personal favorites are going to be the Strike King Series 3 and the Strike King 3XD. The 3XD just dives a little deeper than the Series 3 does. They also have a little bit of a different wobble. The 3XD has a wider, more exaggerated wobble. The Series 3 is a little tighter wobble. I also like the Bass Pro Shops Turning Special crankbait. This one doesn't have any hooks on it right now, but there's the Turning Special crankbait. So medium diving crankbaits, guys, catch a lot of fish on Lake Travis. So those are my top 3 producing baits or techniques on Lake Travis that have put more fish in the boat on Lake Travis for me and my clients than anything else. Obviously, there's a lot of other baits that I throw very often on Lake Travis as well. And some other ones that do a little better with putting bigger fish in the boat more often. But to get that kind of information, y'all are going to want to book a guided fishing trip with me. There will be some information at the end of the video about how you can book a trip with me to get some of that more in-depth information on Lake Travis. If you want the real nitty-gritty on colors and sizes and areas on Lake Travis to fish and concentrate on. If you want that real nitty-gritty about Lake Travis, you're going to want to book a guided fishing trip with me. This video is just the basics. Thanks for watching, everyone. We're going to go ahead and watch some footage of fishing on Lake Travis so you can get just kind of a general feel for what a typical day on Lake Travis might look like. And I think in the following footage here, you'll see me catching them on a Strike King Series 3 crankbait that I just talked about, as well as an Alabama rig. Just a typical day on Lake Travis. Thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy the footage here.